I think as an engineer, we have an amazing power. We can take people's wishes and make them a reality. My name is Dr. Ayanna Howard, and I am a roboticist. Robotics is me, it's part of my life. Our society is moving to this touch-based world. If you have a child with a disability, touching and swiping on a tablet is very difficult. I founded a company called Zyrobotics. We develop assistive technologies to empower children with disabilities. Our newest product is a turtle. This is actually pretty fun. It is a very plush, fun-looking electronic device that communicates with your tablet. This is your controller. See that? That's you. The biggest challenge for our business is getting the message out that we exist. Before using AdWords, honestly, I just thought it was about search. I found out it was so much more. With AdWords, we're advertising our mobile apps. Also, being able to offer our videos, basically, as ads is an amazing opportunity. We have Zyromath City Count, and that's a runner game. It's the best way, without actually having it downloaded, to show what these apps are all about. Zyrobotics is doing great. We have 8 employees. We've grown twice already. I think the biggest moment was we got an email from a mom who basically just said, thank you, and thank you for doing this. That makes it feel like it's worth it. It makes you realize that we're doing the right thing.
Good morning, and welcome to Partners Connect, broadcasting live from the Googleplex here in Mountain View, California. My name's Teray. I'm part of the Partners marketing team here at Google, and we're absolutely thrilled to have you joining us today. We have an absolutely amazing lineup of speakers here for you to talk about growing your healthcare business online and how you can use digital advertising to make the most of your online advertising budget. But first, before we get started, there are 2 things to remember for the duration of the broadcast. First, the Google partners in the room are the true experts and can answer your questions both during and after the broadcast. These folks have all been certified by Google as true experts in the field of helping businesses like yours succeed online. Second, we'd love to hear your feedback and questions on Twitter. Just remember, use hashtag PartnersConnect to join the conversation. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Brendan Jacobson. Brendan is a veteran in the healthcare industry and Senior Strategic Partner Manager at Google. He's here to talk about the evolution of the path to purchase in the healthcare industry and how you can use digital advertising to reach the right customers at the right moment. Brendan?
Well, thank you, Teray, and thank all of you for joining us for this latest installment of Partners Connect, where you might have guessed it, today we're going to spend some time talking about healthcare. But before we kick things off, I think it's important that we establish a baseline and just acknowledge that digital is driving significant changes in consumer behavior across all industries. With the proliferation of mobile devices, and if you're anything like me, your mobile device is always within arm's reach, we have constant access to information. And as a result, as consumers, we are much more informed than ever before. We have very high expectations. And so things that in the past might have been considered extraordinary best practices in the digital marketing space, today they're ordinary. And the reason for that is because that's what consumers are demanding. And it's no different in the healthcare space. And we're all aware that industry after industry is being disrupted by changes in digital. Just think about how we buy and consume everything from movies to travel, eyeglasses to razor blades, even how we buy groceries and clothes. Every industry is dealing with disruption that is rooted in digital change. I like this example in the transportation space. I remember as a child growing up, one of the things that my mother ingrained in my head from day one was never ever get in the car with a stranger. Well, times have changed, right? I travel quite a bit, and what I find is that I'm frequently using the internet to summon complete strangers to come and pick me up and take me places. Now, yes, certainly times have changed, but this is incredibly disruptive. If you talk to a taxi commission, think about, or even car rental companies, just think about how much this has changed their business. So it just goes to show you how much times are changing in part because of digital. Or even if we think about travel and looking at the impact that Airbnb has had on the hotel industry. If you would have asked me 20 years ago if I would consider letting a complete stranger come stay at my house, or better yet, would I pay money to go stay at a stranger's house? The answer would have been unequivocally no. It would have been totally unfathomable. Yet today, many of us are eschewing that traditional hotel stay in favor of actually seeking out strangers and asking if I can stay at their apartment. So this is just another great example of the disruption that we're seeing in part because of digital. And we're even seeing that technology is disrupting the healthcare space. And here at Google, our Verily Life Sciences team is working very hard on the development of a contact lens that's going to be able to measure glucose levels in diabetics, eliminating the need for them to prick their fingers dozens of times a day just to test what their blood sugar levels are. Now, this is a very welcome disruption for those that are afflicted with diabetes, but just think about how disruptive that is to all of those companies that have been manufacturing these more traditional devices over the past few decades. But the disruption, it's not limited to technological advances. Our access to information today is making us much more active participants in our own healthcare experiences. And here at Google, we are constantly conducting third-party studies, doing different surveys, trying to understand exactly what is the role of digital in this evolving landscape. And one of the key stats that really jumps out at us is understanding that on average, a health consumer is going to consult at least 12 different sources of information before ever picking a provider. And I can tell you just a quick anecdote. For me, this number seems really low. My wife is a diabetic. She's had juvenile diabetes since she was 7 years old. And when we got married, we wanted to start a family, but we knew that it was an uphill climb for us to ever be able to have a healthy child. It's not easy when you've been afflicted by the disease for several decades, but we were determined. And so we spent a lot of time doing research, a lot of time doing planning. And it was months and months of me spending time, and my wife, of course, searching, trying to find out what are the best facilities, who are the best doctors, what are the precautions that we need to be aware of. And then we moved on to YouTube, watching video after video of women like her who had been able to successfully go on to have children. And long story short, we did, at the end of this online process, we found one of the top hospitals in Manhattan, went to their high-risk pregnancy division. We had a very healthy son, and everything worked out. It was a great experience for us. But for me, this 12.4 number, it's more than just a data point. This is real. I have lived through this patient journey that's happening online today. And I can tell you that it's incredibly important to recognize that people are doing so much of their research today, trying to understand what their options are, and it's happening primarily online. And so what we're seeing is that there's a fundamental shift in consumer behavior. Mobile has fractured the consumer journey into hundreds of real-time, intent-driven moments. Our attention spans are shorter. We take unscripted, non-linear paths to purchase. Brand loyalty is waning because we're becoming much more loyal to what our needs are in the moment. In those I want to buy, I want to know, I want to do moments, we care more about satisfying our need in that moment than any brand. And the reality is that as marketers, we really need to acknowledge that of these hundreds of real-time, intent-driven moments, there are some moments that are going to matter much more than others. In today's health consumer's path to treatment, it's no longer linear either. Now, search is indispensable in this path. You can't make any doubt about that. But so is video, as healthcare videos represent one of the largest, fastest growing content segments on YouTube today. So it's important that, yes, we need to be thinking about search, but video is going to play a key role in your digital strategy going forward. And my colleague Ben Tyson is going to spend a few minutes later on in this webinar talking about exactly what is that role when it comes to video and what types of strategies you should be thinking about. Now at Google, when you think about our mission, going back to 1998 when the company was founded, our goal was to take all of the information that's out there and to organize it in a way that makes it universally accessible and useful to everyone. And that mission has not changed over time. And it's no different in the healthcare space. We want to make sure that when you're searching for health information, we are surfacing the exact content that you're looking for. Now, one caveat is that 15% of searches that are happening on Google every day are completely unique. Nobody has ever searched for those before. So it does make it a bit of a challenge, but as a company, we are up for that challenge, we are evolving, and we continue to do our best to make sure that we are surfacing the exact information that you're looking for at the exact time that you're looking for it. And so just a question for all of you that are watching here today. How many of you have searched for something health related, whether it's for yourself or for your loved one, let's say over the past week or the past month? And it could have been a query something like this. But then the question becomes, how many of you ended up feeling a little uneasy or potentially anxious based on what it is that you found on the internet? 2 weeks ago, after completing a few weeks on the road, spending a lot of time on planes, I came home and I wasn't feeling so well. Like most people, I went to Google, I started entering all of the different symptoms that I was feeling. There were plenty of potential conditions that I could have been suffering, but for whatever reason, I convinced myself that I had pneumonia. And so I went into my doctor, I explained the symptoms that I was feeling, told her what I thought it might be, and she just nodded along. She ran a series of tests, and it turned out that I had allergies, right? So good news, but at the same time, it was a very stressful, anxious process that I was going through. And my guess is that many of you watching today have experienced something similar when you've gone on to type in some of the symptoms that you're encountering. And while that previous slide was intended to inject a bit of humor, the reality is that when we are researching our symptoms, it can lead us down a rabbit hole into any potential condition that we may have. Yet only 1/3 of the time do we actually come to the right conclusion. We assume the worst, but more often than not, thankfully, it turns out to be something much more benign. So based on everything that we've talked about so far, it shouldn't come as a huge surprise that according to a recent Gallup poll that was conducted at the end of 2015, Americans said that health is one of the top 5 concerns in their lives, behind things such as the economy, the government, unemployment, even immigration. And I think it's intuitive that our own health and the health of our loved ones, it is one of the most important things to any of us. But this is just a natural validation to understand that health is always top of mind. We are always concerned about it, and we're spending a lot of time online trying to better understand what our options are. And at Google, I mentioned earlier, we conduct a lot of third-party studies. We do a lot of surveys trying to understand what is the role in this evolving digital path to treatment. And from our most recent study that we conducted last year with Millward Brown Digital, we found that there's a new set of expectations from consumers. The first of which is health consumers want things now. They want that instant gratification. They also want to feel empowered. They want to own the experience of their own health. And health consumers, like many others, they want things to be easy. They want it to be a frictionless experience to get information or access. And I think it's reasonable to say that they require these things in every digital interaction, and that includes healthcare. So let's talk about that first expectation, wanting information immediately. So there are roughly 100 billion or so searches that are happening every month on Google. And did you know that 1 in 20 of those searches has health intent? So we are talking about massive volume here. There are 7 billion people in the world. 5 out of 7 people are searching at least once a month for something. And we know that not everyone in the world, unfortunately, has connectivity. So when we see these stats, we're talking about you, we're talking about me, we're talking about everyone. We are always searching, we're searching all the time, and 1 out of 20 times we're searching for something that is related to our health. And a key reason that search is the top source of healthcare information is because of the fact that it provides immediate answers, which is why 77% of online health inquiries begin on a search engine. Compare that with another 13% will start on a health information site, think like a WebMD. Another 2% will start on more of a general site, like a Wikipedia. Only 1% are going to start this search on a social network. And to me, this is where it gets really interesting when we look at search paths. So at the beginning, the search path typically isn't going to focus on brand terms. People are looking up symptoms, they're looking up conditions, they're trying to understand what is the problem behind the way that they're feeling. Yet interestingly enough, what we see is by the time they actually convert, branded terms are rising. And if we go back and think about the fact that people are referencing at least 12 different sources of information before deciding where to get care, what this tells us is that for you as a marketer, you have an opportunity during that process to be present, to engage, and to potentially influence these prospective patients to choose you as their care provider. So we've touched on how health searches, they continue to grow, and the fact that 1 in 20 searches today has health intent. And so then the question begs, what is the catalyst behind all of this search activity? And the answer is mobile. Mobile is now the main device that is used for health searches. It's a trend that continues to grow and one that we expect to continue to move up and to the right. And at Google, we call this the micro moment. As a marketer in the health space, these moments of intent and immediacy, they have enormous implications, yet at the same time, they present enormous opportunities for you. And at Google, especially in today's new mobile-first world, we're really less concerned with the identity of a consumer. Instead, we are uber focused on intent. If someone is coming to Google and telling us that they're interested in your product, your services, your organization, that's much more telling than who that person is, what their demographic may be. And so it's our belief here at Google that intent trumps identity. And if you're going to measure intent, immediacy is going to be much more important than loyalty at the end of the day. And to me, this data point, it's fairly eye-opening. 88% of patients are relying on search as they look to decide where to seek treatment. And we know that search is a heavy indicator of intent. And here we can see exactly what consumers are doing with search from a health consumer standpoint. 60% are using mobile. 41% are actually going to a website. 86% say that mobile plays a critical role in their decision-making process. And let's not forget ratings and reviews. Nearly 1/3 of those polled said that that played a factor in their final decision on where to seek treatment. And when we think about mobile, it's important to highlight that Google search interest in Near Me has increased 34x since 2011, and it nearly doubled in the last year alone. And as you might expect, the vast majority of these Near Me searches, they come from mobile. The last data point that I saw was 88% in Q1 of last year for Near Me searches were coming from mobile devices. Mobile search allows consumers to find answers whenever and wherever and to be able to act immediately. So consumers have the same set of expectations of healthcare providers that they have for any other category, be it entertainment or retail. They want instant gratification, they want to feel empowered, and they want those frictionless experiences. And again, much of this is happening on mobile. It's easy to assume when we see here, coffee near me, yeah, that's going to be a mobile search. But there are also people walking down the street actively searching for a hospital nearby, right? Think about an emergency situation. Somebody needs care, they need it immediately. They're going to be on their mobile device trying to find where is the closest facility where I can get help. And so the question that I pose for you is, how is your hospital, is your organization going to show up when people are making these searches on mobile devices? Which leads us to the second expectation, and that is that consumers want to own or at least be an equal partner in their own health experience. Now, I know we casually joked earlier in the webinar about some self-diagnosis examples on Google, similar to this news clipping that I came across a few years ago. But the truth is that consumers, they want to feel empowered with their own information, even if they are planning to see a professional. And if they do see a professional, 60% of patients like to compare and validate information from doctors with their own online research. Consider how this has changed over the past decade. In the past, patients would do whatever their doctor told them. Consumers today, they're not just relying on doctors and professionals, but they're looking to the internet to get information to supplement or oftentimes even replace the information that they get from their own doctors. Now, we know the role of digital, it's pivotal in this decision-making process. More people would rather confide in the internet with their questions of how to find more information on their symptoms or a treatment center than they would talking to their own friends and family or even their own doctors. So today, the internet, it's the #1 resource when researching care and recovery options at treatment centers and at hospitals. Which brings us to the last expectation. Today's health consumers, they want a frictionless experience and they really want it to be easy. And so then, what is easy, right? It's a loose term. Many of you are probably wondering, what exactly is an easy experience? Well, the first clue is that 77% of consumers, they're going to switch a mobile site or an app if it doesn't make it easy for them to find the information that they're looking for. Again, they want easy, they want frictionless. And this goes for every interaction, and that includes in person, the doctor's visits, the treatments, the surgeries, but it also extends to their engagement with you online. If your site is slow, if it's clumsy, 29% of smartphone users, they're going to immediately switch to another site or another app. And this can include things like lag times, taking too long to load, or even too many steps to actually move forward with that action that they're looking to take. And so I know the question on many of your minds is, what is too long? And we actually asked shoppers this in a survey last year. And interestingly enough, 40% of shoppers said that if a website, a mobile site, or an app took 3 or more seconds to load, they would immediately go to a competitor site to get that same information. So the question for you is, what steps are you taking to ensure that you're providing the easiest, most frictionless experience for your prospective patients? And so then, what does easy and frictionless look like? Well, here we have a real anonymized mobile experience for one of the leading hospitals in the United States. And notice that not only do they show up when the patient is searching, but they also provide the ability for them to act immediately, act now, to find more information on what it is that they were searching for. They leverage location extensions to allow health consumers to find out immediately how to get there. Again, think back to that ER example. And then finally, they make it very easy to contact the facility, in this case using click to call. So for this example, this brand is providing the easiest customer experience, which allows the potential patient to not only find, but to act in the moment. And with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Teray, who's going to introduce the second part of our webinar here today.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan.
You're welcome.
It's really amazing to see the impact that providing the right information at the right time can have in the healthcare industry, and the pivotal role that digital plays in the decision-making process of the patient. I know from personal experience, I made a dentist appointment earlier this week, and I went with the dentist that made it easiest for me to book. And now, as we get ready to move to our next speaker, Ben Tyson, I'd like to take a moment to highlight one thing you mentioned, and that's about our partners. Sure, they've gained the Google Partner Badge, but what exactly does that mean? Well, it actually means quite a bit. In order to be certified as a Google Partner, an agency must pass a rigorous set of requirements to make sure they have the skills needed to help businesses like yours succeed online. That includes passing a comprehensive advertising exam to make sure they know how to use Google's advertising products, managing significant AdWords investment to make sure they have the experience needed to succeed online, and last but certainly not least, making sure they have a track record of performance with businesses like yours. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn things over to our next speaker, Ben Tyson. Ben is going to go over some specific strategies and recommendations that we can implement right away to make the most of our advertising budget. Ben?
Awesome. Thank you, Torrey, and thank you, Brendan, for walking us through the consumer journey in regards to search. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here, and I'm going to focus on video. And we have to understand that video is a growing gateway to health information and extremely crucial for us to win in today's ecosystem, to drive consumers to engage with our particular business, to drive them to that particular purchase. So what we have to understand, though, as we are going to start a little bit more general, there are some new truths that are shaping the media landscape as we head into 2018 and as well as the end of 2017. So starting a little bit more general, like I'd said, online viewership has exploded over the last few years, 100% video growth. And if we look at this, this is really interesting. In 2016 is the first time that online video has surpassed regular television in regards to time spent per day. I think that this is extremely crucial for us to grasp that by 2018, midway through 2018, about 70 to 80% of all the content that consumers are engaging with online will be through video. So this is definitely going to be the catalyst as we push towards the new year as well as towards 2019. So let's dive in more specifically into healthcare statistics. What we have found is that there are 300 billion health searches, or excuse me, 3 billion health searches taking place on YouTube every single month. What I find extremely interesting is the three statistics that you see at the bottom of your screen here. And we're going to start with the first because I like to highlight this one explicitly. 56% of patients are searching for health-related concerns on YouTube. That is insane. We have to understand that the content that exists on the internet needs to be relatable to our consumers, and that's why they're turning to YouTube. There's also 8.2 billion health-related videos on YouTube. The question is, are one of those videos yours? If not, you have to ask yourself why. There's not a higher engaging piece of content that folks that are looking to make a healthcare decision can be provided than on video. So when we think about it, we asked individuals, well, why did you like the video? Really, what made the video valuable to you in your overall decision-making process? And the top two answers were these: comprehensive and something I've already mentioned, which is relatable. So let's dive into each one of these to understand the different aspects that consumers are relating to when they talk about comprehensive and relatable. First and foremost, comprehensive. Now, if you believe what I'm telling you, the next thing you have to ask yourself is, what should the content on my video be, and why are potential patients actually watching? So these are the four highlights that we found from our study. First and foremost, 50% of consumers are looking for treatment and procedures. And then something that Brendan mentioned is symptoms and conditions, is 48% of consumers are watching these videos to understand symptom and conditions. And then lastly, the last one I want to highlight is media and technology innovation. So Brendan and I have had the opportunity to travel around the United States and really consult with different healthcare facilities. And some of these healthcare facilities are using cutting-edge technology and innovation in the healthcare space. These are concerns that consumers have today. What type of medical technology and innovation are you providing at your facility? And this is a really, truly engaging way to ensure that you're driving consumers to want to engage with your particular healthcare. So let's move on, right? Relatable. 1 and 2 would like to hear another patient story on video when they feel that no one else truly understands what they're going through. This is absolutely true, and I can speak from personal experience. So right now, my father is going through stage 4 cancer. A lot of research was put in play, and I happen to agree with Brendan when I say 12.4 sources of information seems low. But one of the key things that just about every member of my family did is we went through and we watched a ton of YouTube videos of individuals in the same exact situation, whether going through cancer themselves or have a family member or relative going through the same situation. We found it very empowering and really relatable that other individuals were going through the same thing that we were. We also found very unique ideas and innovative ideas of treatment. Over the course of time, we ended up choosing an oncologist for my father that we felt had really relatable patients, awesome testimonials, and cutting-edge technology to hopefully kick this cancer in the butt. So to be determined from there, but the important takeaway here is that you have to be relatable, and the way you do that is through video. Create testimonials with your customers that have had fantastic experience with your business. Create videos that show off the innovative technology that you're utilizing at your facility. These things are really great and help individuals relate to your business. So what can we do today? So if all these facts and figures are true, what we have to understand is more than likely how we're engaging our customers through video is probably not where we need to be. And I want to say that that's okay. It's not your fault because it is a difficult cookie, a difficult nut to figure out. So the first thing we need to do is we need to audit our existing video assets. most healthcare facilities that Brendan and I have interacted with, they do have testimonial videos of customers or patients that have worked with that particular facility. So the goal is how do I take these videos that I have, these existing assets, whether they're on my site or in no man's land, and put them in play into YouTube and make them findable through searches on YouTube to engage with our customers. We also have to develop a targeting plan. Brendan had mentioned something very crucial earlier, and that's intent. Identity is going through the wayside, and what we have found is that if we can measure the level of intent a consumer has to make a decision, you should develop a plan based on what that intent and those intent signals actually are. We also need to understand what the top user searches are on YouTube. And that's something that is simplistic to do, and all of the partners that are sitting in the room with you today can easily access and find that information for you. One of the key challenges as we find in the healthcare space is how do I actually advertise and market my business through YouTube? And I'm going to tell you, this is our fault at Google. We haven't made it exactly easy to really navigate and understand the scope of the overall YouTube inventory. Once again, work with the folks in the room, our Google partners, our trusted advisors, so that they can walk you through what some of the inventory looks like and how you could put it in play to engage potential patients. And then lastly, project investment impact. Really plan, this goes into the planning stage that we talked about in step 2, but truly understanding what that investment is going to look like and what that impact and return will be for your particular facility. Now, when we think about this, right, how can we target based on our users' context? This filters into intent because a lot of intent signals can come from context, being location, day parts, content, and the overall audience. So if we can understand someone's location as it pertains to where our facility is, we have the ability to make a better decision if that's someone that we want to market to, if the intent signals are right. Understanding different times of day that individuals are doing different types of research are very crucial for you to market towards, especially when we're talking about video. What type of content? When I talk about content, what is the actual video that I'm going to leverage? And then the overall audience, again, the intent. I also have the ability to leverage remarketing through YouTube, similar audience, all of these things that are crucial for my particular business to ensure that I'm reaching the right person at the right time when they have intent to make a decision. So if we don't have any video assets available today, that's all right. You can leverage YouTube Director, which is a video creation app that creates high-quality turnkey videos for your business. These are ready-to-go templates that are designed to create a video quickly without any experience in video creation or editing at all. What I also find truly fascinating is that the templates will allow you to choose what type of marketing potentially you want to do. So if you wanted to do TrueView, a 15 or 30-second spot, there's that option. If you wanted to do bumper ads, which are no more than 6 seconds, you have that option as well to create those videos through this app. Now, a little caveat, this app Director is not available for everyone. In fact, it's only in a handful of cities around the United States. You can talk to your partners if that's available for you, but just to give you some insight, San Francisco, LA, Chicago, New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta are the cities that are available to leverage Director. Why are we talking about video? Brendan really gave some interesting statistics about search, but what we have found is if you match the two together, it creates a beautiful marriage. And there's a 53% lift in landing page visits, as well as expressions of interest, and then KPIs or key performance indicators, generally leading to conversions. This is a huge number. What we have found specifically in healthcare is by pairing these two together is a much greater lift than any other two forms of marketing that exist for your business today. So some key takeaways as we begin to move towards wrapping this up and get into some Q&A. What we have to understand is that we have to be present in each moment when consumers are making decisions about health. It's absolutely crucial, right? The first thing we need to do is we need to grow our share of consumers' intent through search, as well as to shape brand performance. This is absolutely crucial for us to understand. The second is understand the most often asked about questions. What I would do is I would connect with the individuals that answer the phone, the doctors that I have in my facility, and ask them, what are the top 10, what are the top 15, what are the top 20 questions that our patients are asking when they call or when they walk in the door. Understanding what questions are being asked about your particular category is one of the greatest marketing tools that you have available to you today. You can quickly turn that around into a search or a video campaign that's going to delight and engage customers. And then third, you have to make it easy for customers to actually find you. Brendan had talked about this earlier, utilizing some of the extensions that are available with search, whether it be location extensions or call extensions. Call extensions are absolutely crucial. Individuals want that experience and they want to feel that information now. And if we're not allowing them just to click a button to call us, it creates a big headache for marketing and really engaging our consumers. Let's think about it. How was it 4 or 5 years ago? Actually, a little longer than that, 6, 7, 8 years ago. You go online on your phone, you'd zoom in, you'd find a phone number and you'd push the button. Oh my gosh, it wouldn't actually click to call. Of course, you were sitting with a friend and you'd say, hey, you remember 767 and I'm going to remember 4521. What a terrible user experience. Don't fall into that trap. Make it easy for customers not only to find you, but also to make that connection. We also need to build awareness and understanding of our brand through digital video, right? The incremental reach, if we build awareness through scaling YouTube, is obviously tremendous. We saw that there was a 53% lift when we're doing search as well as video together. We have to think beyond just entertainment video. We need to build content that does a handful of things: educates and informs our consumers and creates some sort of emotion. Think about the symptoms and conditions that they're researching and then create those video assets to inform, educate, and create emotion, and that's going to drive them to some sort of action. And third, we have to leverage the existing trusted reputation of the YouTube health personalities that exist. There's tremendous opportunities to advertise on those personalities' pages, as well as why not become a health personality yourself? Engage with your customers, give the information that they're looking for, and educate them on some of the challenges that they might be facing. And then lastly, we have to think mobile first. A mobile-friendly website. You're probably saying, duh, Ben, of course we need a mobile-friendly website. We know that. Here's the challenge, is that when we've done research, as Brendan had mentioned, 40% of consumers say that if the site takes 3 or more seconds to load, that they actually leave. Well, what's interesting in the healthcare space, the average mobile site takes just over 7 seconds to load. That's insanity. We have to create better customer experience. But if you're able to decrease the load time of your mobile site, every single second that you're able to decrease that, your bounce rate will decrease by 10 to 20% per second. That is incredible. 2, develop creative assets specifically for mobile to drive high performance and return on your ad spend. Creating different ad creatives, whether it's via search or video, are absolutely imperative, understanding if someone's coming from a mobile device or someone's coming from a desktop. Having different creative within the context, remember location, time of day, device, audience, etc., are absolutely crucial to winning in this mobile environment. And then 3, we have to use location and device clues. We need to use this so that we can provide users with relevant and timely messaging. Again, understanding that we need to drive them to some sort of conversion. Are we actually enabling them to do that? In most healthcare facilities that Brendan and I have visited, and in most healthcare marketing strategies we've looked at, that was one of the key things that all we had to do was change, is understand if the messaging is driving people to convert. In a lot of cases, that's not the answer. So here's the challenge, is that we're all falling short. But as time changes and technology changes, I want you to understand that this is not your fault. It's very, very difficult to stay on top of all of this stuff. So the question is, well, what do you do? Well, in our perspective, some key things that you need to take away. First and foremost, how do you ensure that you are there when people are looking for you, right? Do searches for yourself, do searches for your competitors, and see how you compare. How can you provide immediate information with digital? This is a question you need to ask yourself. How can you use search to drive your business? If you're already using search, how can you impact it with some of the key things that Brendan and I have talked about today? And then also, at the end of this session, pull out your smartphone and see what is the mobile experience like for consumers when they're trying to engage with your business. All crucial things that you have to understand. But when I say we're falling short, it's not your fault. It is so difficult, and the ecosystem is incredibly difficult to navigate. That's why we always suggest that you look for help from a Google partner. And what a Google partner can do for you is provide 4 key things to ensure they empower you to win in today's environment. First thing, they have the time. The time to go through and manage these campaigns on a daily basis. They have the desire to do so, certainly have the knowledge of how the ecosystem is working in and out with one another, and then lastly, the resources. The 4 things that Brendan and I have found that healthcare facilities are lacking is what our Google partners can provide. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Torre, and thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You know, it's always shocking to me the impact that the little things can make. I mean, who knew what a difference 1 second of load time could have?
Yeah.
And with that, it's time that we move to my favorite part of the day, the live Q&A. We've been monitoring everyone's questions on Twitter, but if you haven't asked any yet, it's not too late. You can join us on Twitter. Just remember, use hashtag PartnersConnect, and we'll do our best to get to it. And now our first question, coming in from Jeff from Austin. Jeff says, we run a local clinic, and I feel like we're embarrassingly behind on our online strategy. Any tips on where to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to take that one. I think first and foremost, you need to focus on search. Think about what are the most profitable procedures that you are performing today, what lead to the greatest contribution to margin, max out that impression share. Search is the foundation, it's the cornerstone to any digital strategy. Once you've done that, then you can shift gears and start thinking about video. But first and foremost, you need to make sure that you have that presence on search.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That was a perfect answer.
Well done. Well said. Next up, we have Gina from New Jersey. And Gina asks, would you recommend I adjust my remarketing campaigns during a specific time of the year? For example, during flu season?
Yes. So, do you mind if I take this?
No, please.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
So, you should be participating in remarketing. That would be probably step 3 in the healthcare space. But yeah, I think that there are certain times of year, depending again on the most profitable sector of your practice, where you should increase your overall remarketing and the spend that you're doing there. Also having different creative. If we're going to talk about increasing our bids, maybe we want to increase some of the creative that we're making to ensure that we're impacting individuals with the right messaging. But I think that, yeah, that's a really good strategy. Anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add one thing, not knowing exactly what product it is that you're selling, Gina. We do have fairly strict remarketing guidelines when it comes to the healthcare industry, and that's all about protecting the consumer's privacy. So what I would suggest you do is spend some time talking to your Google partner to better understand what those remarketing restrictions are, just to make sure that it is a strategy that you're able to pursue.
Absolutely. Next up, we have our first question from T-Dot, which I found out is what the locals call Toronto. And that is, how should I adjust my bidding strategies to make the most of my mobile traffic? And that's Sylvia from Toronto.
All right, so can you repeat it one more time?
How should I adjust my bidding strategies to make the most of my mobile traffic?
Okay, so thank you, Sylvia. I appreciate it. We're getting deep into machine learning, and a lot of the products that we're offering, like smart bidding, are absolutely crucial things to start to implement into your overall strategy, because it is going to deliver or design and deliver more sophisticated strategies based on what your conversions actually are. So we'll really be able to adjust on the fly for you based on the types of conversions that you're looking for. What I would consider though is if you're not leveraging smart bidding, is adjusting bids at a campaign level can be difficult, especially with today. You don't necessarily have to break out different campaigns for mobile or desktop, although I know a lot of individuals are still doing that. But yeah, I think that fooling around with adjusting some of the bids based on the context, again, time of day, location, and device on mobile can be very crucial and impact higher conversion rates. But again, if you're not leveraging smart bidding, definitely look into it. There's some great articles on the Help Center about it.
Absolutely. Next, we have Claire from San Diego. How can I customize my ads to increase my conversion rates?
I can take it. Yeah.
Go for it.
So customization of ads is key. The challenge is how do I invest so much time in actually doing that, right? So you can't have just one ad, per campaign or one ad creative per ad group even, right? You need to create some sort of A and B testing, see what impacts the conversion at the highest. There's also something here at Google that we call creative excellence, which I could talk about for a handful of minutes, but based on time, I would suggest if you go to, again, the Help Center, the AdWords Help Center, there's a lot of documentation and insights into what we would consider to be creative excellence. But from a step one, see how it's impacting our overall conversion rate. Yeah, I would definitely set up some sort of A/B testing within the ad group, and a lot again of the machine learning and AI that we're utilizing is going to help you dynamically create creative for search, as well as understand which pieces of creative are actually leading to a conversion in the long run. So there's a lot of things to look in there, and hopefully that answers your question. Sorry.
Absolutely. Next up, we have Sharon from Miami. What are the 3 best practices recommended in terms of landing pages?
Maybe I'll give a couple and chime in if you want. Sorry, right, I feel like I just keep talking over.
Right.
All right, so first and foremost, I think the number one tip for a landing page is if I'm advertising through search, dependent upon if someone's looking for symptom-related, procedure-related, I need to direct them to the actual landing page on my site that discusses the symptoms that they could be feeling or the procedure that they're looking into. I can't send individuals to my homepage. This is not rocket science. If I think about it, it's like if you were to walk into a party that advertised free beer and you came in and they said it's $5 a beer, you're going to leave, right? But if you get there and it's free, you're going to stay, right? So I think that's the number one key thing that we can do is make sure that if we're advertising based on our keywords, whatever the case is, I need to ensure that I'm sending people to a landing page that talks exactly about what that individual is looking for. That's the number one mistake I see individuals make.
And I guess just one other thing to add, I don't know if there are any links to the ability to buy pharmaceuticals. That's always a pitfall. So if that is the case, make sure that you have the proper pharma certificate, which again, you can talk to your Google partners about how you go about getting that. But you may have some policy issues if there are any links on the landing pages or the pages they link to that are going to direct someone to a pharmacy to buy any sort of prescription drugs.
Perfect. Next up, we have iProv LLC from Little Rock, Arkansas. Very specific. I appreciate that. All right, so Brendan, here we go. How can you talk about how voice search is going to change healthcare marketing for hospitals?
I don't know that I necessarily have that answer today, but we can certainly send that information to our Google partners. I think it would be a bit of speculation to say exactly how that will impact it going forward.
What I can say is that it will impact at some point. It's going to impact and affect every single industry, not just healthcare. This is a new space for Google, although we're heavily invested in it. And again, as Brendan mentioned, we don't necessarily want to speculate on how this is going to change. I would stay closely connected with the Google partners that you're with, because generally speaking, the data that we find we turn over and hand over to our trusted advisors and trusted partners like the folks in the room. So stay close to them and stay tuned.
Absolutely.
I guess just one more thing to add there is just talking about the fact that 15% of all searches that are happening every day are unique. I think we can attribute that to voice search. And on the Google side, we are constantly evolving, adjusting our algorithms to make sure that we are continuing to deliver the most accurate information based on what it is that people are searching for. So I would expect that we'll just continue to do that as voice search becomes much more prevalent.
Absolutely. McKay Advertising from Tampa, Florida asks, should we bid higher on branded keywords for desktop and therefore scale back on mobile branded bids? It's a pretty specific one.
It is. This is more of an optimization technique. So branded keywords, I'm assuming that you mean specifically for your facility. Generally speaking, those are pretty inexpensive, and the quality score that you deem on branded keywords should be really, really high because you're the actual business of that brand. So generally speaking, you shouldn't have to bid up as much. Now, with that being said, I don't disagree with the strategy that you're suggesting here, which is bid higher on desktop because there's more, and then a little bit lower on mobile, make it a little bit more dynamic in that aspect. But I think that the safe play here is to continue to bid on both mobile and desktop because the cost should be very, very minimum. If it's not, go ahead and email our partners again, and would be happy to give you some more tips on that.
Absolutely. All right, next, Leo from Cleveland wants to know what markets Director OnSite is currently available in. I actually know this one, guys. It's San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, DC, and Atlanta. I don't think I missed
Did you say Chicago?
I think I did say Chicago.
Okay, yeah.
I believe there's 7 cities right
7?
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you covered 7, you got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. That information is also available online, and I know the team is working hard to expand it to more cities, so hopefully it will roll out nationwide soon. Next up, we have Nicole from Buffalo, New York. What type of content do you find converts most often in the space?
Well, search content, well, yeah, so I think this is a tough question. So it depends. A lot of individuals have different, I guess, answers in regards to what content is. I believe, and I think we all believe at Google, that content would be your messaging via search and how you're actually positioning yourself. And is it relevant to what the customer is looking for? And look, when we assess the healthcare space, in most spaces, there's not a better conversion tool than search. So that's going to be the highest. But if we were to take the step out and say, what about video? When we look at the healthcare space, it's a little bit different because of the fact most of the, I would say, potential patients that are looking on YouTube about healthcare related information, it's a serious subject. So most other, I would say, industries have found success with very entertaining type of content, humor, etc. In the healthcare space, what we found that converts the best is emotional type content that's tied to some sort of testimony of a particular practice, converts extremely high. And then a couple of things that I mentioned earlier in the session were information as well as education. So information and education, 2 different things, right? So I can inform someone about something, now I'm going to teach someone about something. Especially if you are a practice that experiments with different innovations in medicine, educating on either why you do it, how to do it, are crucial things that lead to a conversion.
Absolutely.
Anything to add at all? Or?
I would just add, like from a search perspective, that's something that your partners are going to be constantly looking at, right? Like they're going to try many different strategies. They're going to see which ones are performing, and they're constantly going to be iterating to make sure that you are getting the most conversions and the best ROI based on whatever strategy they're pursuing.
Awesome. We have time for a few more, guys. Helen from San Francisco asks, will I lose control with dynamic search ads?
You're not going to lose control. I would definitely recommend implementing dynamic search ads. what I would suggest is create a separate campaign for your client to test dynamic search ads with a handful of ad groups to see what the results are. Some folks like it. I personally love it, and I try to advise most individuals to move down that route. It takes a lot off the plate in regards to creation as well as time to optimize in a lot of these things. So again, you should not lose control, but if that is a worry, some of the things that I've done for clients in the past is create a separate campaign, handful of ad groups, run dynamic search ads, and see how it works.
Absolutely. Elvira from the Big Apple asks, you mentioned remarketing using customer match lists. Are healthcare marketers allowed to use remarketing tactics?
This goes back to the remarketing policy that I had referenced earlier. If it's condition specific, the answer is going to be no, but there are all sorts of exceptions based on what it is that you're remarketing. So I would ask, your Google partner definitely has access to our entire policy when it comes to remarketing in the healthcare space. So I would consult with them. They can share that information with you. I guess we'll leave it there.
Yeah, I would say that's what you need to do. Consult with the Google partner, again, to ensure that you're following, I guess, all the bylaws is what we can call it. Healthcare is a sticky place due to privacy and other things that Brendan have mentioned. So really ensure that you're following the rules when it comes to Google and healthcare, because otherwise you'll be disappointed or essentially taken down. So yeah.
I mean, my general rule of thumb is if I'm looking at something that I would never want someone to walk by and see me have a remarketed ad showing up on my screen, that's going to be a no-no, right? But then there's going to be a lot of nuances to that policy, and I would just, again, talk to your Google partner about exactly what is acceptable and what's not.
Absolutely. All right, last two questions. Michelle from Greenville, South Carolina wants to know, do we have any stats on paid search in healthcare? And I could take this one. I know it's tough to get stats off the top of your head, but I know we have a lot of great information available at thinkwithgoogle.com. It's kind of our industry-leading research site, and I'm sure you guys use Think with Google quite a bit yourself, right?
All the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we could get to our last question for the day. Nick from Virginia Beach wants to know, do marketing tactics change when your target isn't a patient or consumer, but rather a doctor, such as in a referral-driven market?
The answer is yes. I don't have all the details, but I know our LCS team, they work with some of the leading hospital organizations in the company, and obviously 90% of their goal is to attract new patients, but they're also working with these systems to recruit new nurses, new doctors, and even on top of that, support their fundraising efforts, whatever they're trying to do in their local community. So there are different strategies in play. The Google partners can help them through that. Obviously, the primary goal is attracting new patients, but there are these other ways that search can certainly help them find the right talent for their organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just say, I think that the answer is yes, as Brendan mentioned, but it would definitely depend on what the goals of the business are to really set up a strategy that makes sense. But it's going to be a 180 when we're not trying to attract patients. The types of content that we want to run through video or remarketing, some of the remarketing opportunity is larger because you're not trying to attract patients. So there's a number of different factors to that. And again, as Brendan mentioned, the Google partners in the room can get access to the information that we have. So just connect with them and we'll be happy to send it that way.
Awesome. Well, that was the last question for today. We appreciate everyone asking your questions. If we didn't have a chance to get to it, we do apologize, and we'll do our best to answer it down the line. I'd like to thank Brendan and Ben for joining us. I know I learned a lot today, and we hope all of you did as well. Whether you did or didn't, we would really appreciate your feedback. If you would mind taking a few moments to go online at g.co/partnersconnectfeedback and let us know what you thought of today's session. I know Brendan, Ben, and myself will all be personally looking at each comment, and we really do value your feedback. So again, that's g.co/partnersconnectfeedback. Take 2 minutes and let us know what you thought of the session. And now before we head out, I'd like to mention this one more time. I think you've heard each one of us say it, but the Google partners in the room really are the true experts. They've all gone through a lot of qualifications to become certified as a Google partner and are ready, willing, and able to help you set up, manage, and execute your campaigns to help your business succeed online and, as we learned today, meet the right customer at the right moment. We'd like to thank you all for joining us. On behalf of Brendan, Ben, myself, and all of us here in Mountain View, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.